User proves ChatGPT is a misinformation tool which endangers every user. Part 1, Section I. Why aren't minors allowed to enter into legally binding contracts? Why aren't minors allowed to get tattoos?
Laws regarding minors getting tattoos vary by jurisdiction, and there is no universal rule that prohibits all minors from getting tattoos. However, many places have legal restrictions on tattooing minors, and the reasons for these restrictions can include: informed consent. Tattooing is a permanent and potentially risky procedure. Laws often require individuals to be of a certain age, typically 18, to ensure they can provide informed consent for a procedure that has lifelong implications. Health and safety. Tattooing involves breaking the skin, which poses some health risks. There are concerns about the potential for infections or complications from the tattooing process, and minors may be considered less capable of fully understanding and managing these risks. Maturity and decision-making. The legal age for getting a tattoo is often tied to the age of majority, which is when individuals are considered legally mature and capable of making significant decisions for themselves. The assumption is that by age 18, individuals are more likely to make informed choices about permanent body modifications. Parental consent. In some jurisdictions, even if a minor wishes to get a tattoo, parental consent may be required. This adds an additional layer of protection to ensure that parents or legal guardians are aware of and approve of their child getting a tattoo. It's important to note that regulations on tattooing minors can vary widely, so individuals and tattoo artists should be aware of and comply with local laws and regulations. Some places may allow minors to get tattoos with parental consent, while others may have stricter age requirements.
Why aren't minors allowed to enter into legally binding contracts?
Minors are generally not allowed to enter into legally binding contracts due to the legal principle of incapacity, or lack of capacity. This principle recognizes that individuals below a certain age, often referred to as the age of majority, may not have the legal capacity or maturity to fully understand the implications of a contract and make informed decisions. Here are some reasons why minors are restricted from entering into legally binding contracts. Lack of legal capacity. Minors are presumed to lack the legal capacity to contract because they may not possess the maturity, experience, and judgment required to fully comprehend the legal consequences of a contract. Protection of minors. The legal system aims to protect minors from potentially exploitative or harmful agreements. Restricting their ability to enter into contracts helps safeguard their interests until they reach an age where they are deemed capable of making such decisions. Avoidance of unfairness. Allowing minors to enter into binding contracts could lead to situations where they are taken advantage of by more experienced and knowledgeable parties. The law seeks to prevent unfair or coercive contractual relationships. Consistency in legal standards. The age of majority, which marks the point at which individuals are considered adults and gain full legal capacity, is typically set by law. Establishing a consistent age across various legal aspects, including contracts, provides clarity and uniformity in legal standards. Exceptions may exist in certain circumstances, such as contracts for necessities, example, food, shelter, and clothing, contracts ratified upon reaching the age of majority, or contracts approved by a court. However, these exceptions vary by jurisdiction. Overall, the restriction on minors entering into legally binding contracts is grounded in legal principles aimed at protecting their interests and ensuring fairness in contractual relationships.
Can you tell me what all of these have in common?
Certainly, I'd be happy to help if you could provide more context or specify the items you're referring to. It seems like your question might be related to a list of topics or concepts, but I need more information to identify the commonality.
Protecting health, lacking judgment, legal status.
The commonality among the concepts you've mentioned, protecting health, lacking judgment, and legal status, can be related to the legal treatment of minors. Specifically, Protecting health. Minors are often subject to laws and regulations aimed at protecting their well-being, including their physical and mental health. This can involve restrictions on certain activities, such as consuming alcohol, smoking, or engaging in other behaviors deemed potentially harmful to their health. Lacking judgment. The legal system recognizes that minors may lack the judgment and decision-making capacity that comes with maturity. As a result, there are restrictions on various activities, including entering into contracts or making certain legal decisions, to protect minors from potentially adverse consequences. Legal status. Minors have a distinct legal status from adults. They are not considered fully competent or responsible for all legal matters until they reach the age of majority, which varies by jurisdiction but is typically 18 years old. Until then, their legal status may limit their ability to engage in certain activities or make certain decisions independently. In summary, the common thread is the legal framework that recognizes the unique status of minors, acknowledging their need for protection, guidance, and limitations on certain activities until they reach the age of majority.
Why are children allowed to make decisions to get life-altering surgery when they are not able to drink, drive, join the military, or enter into legally binding contracts?
The ability of children to make decisions about life-altering surgeries, particularly medical interventions related to gender dysphoria, is a complex and debated topic. The legal and ethical considerations surrounding this issue vary across jurisdictions and may involve different factors. Informed consent. In some cases, decisions about medical interventions, including surgeries, may involve a process of informed consent. This means that individuals, including minors, and their legal guardians are provided with comprehensive information about the risks, benefits, and alternatives of the proposed treatment. Informed consent allows individuals, to the extent possible, to make decisions about their own healthcare. Age of medical consent. Laws regarding the age at which individuals can provide their own consent for medical procedures, including surgeries, vary. Some jurisdictions may allow minors to consent to certain medical treatments, especially if they are deemed mature enough to understand the implications and have the ability to make informed decisions. Gender dysphoria treatment guidelines. Healthcare professionals who specialize in treating gender dysphoria often follow specific guidelines and standards of care. These guidelines may provide recommendations for assessing the capacity of minors to make decisions about gender-affirming treatments, taking into account factors such as age, maturity, and the presence of parental support. Legal and ethical debates. The issue of minors making decisions about life-altering surgeries is a subject of ongoing legal and ethical debates. Some argue for greater autonomy for minors in certain medical decisions, particularly when it comes to gender dysphoria treatments, while others emphasize the need for careful consideration of the potential long-term consequences. It's important to note that the approach to these decisions varies globally, and legal and ethical standards may evolve over time. Additionally, discussions around minors and gender dysphoria often involve considerations of mental health, parental involvement, and societal attitudes towards gender identity. Laws and regulations on this matter should be considered within the specific context of the jurisdiction in question.
I agree, it is complex. It is way more complex than getting a tattoo or taking a drink. Children are being allowed to make the complex decision of permanent life-altering surgery and not the easy ones like getting a tattoo. Please explain.
The complexity of allowing children to make decisions about life-altering surgeries, particularly in the context of gender-affirming procedures, involves a combination of medical, legal, ethical, and social considerations. Here are some key points to help explain the complexity of this issue. Nature of the decision. Life-altering surgeries, such as those related to gender dysphoria treatment, have long-term and irreversible consequences. Unlike activities such as getting a tattoo or trying alcohol, the impact of medical interventions is often more profound and permanent. Informed consent and capacity. The concept of informed consent is crucial in medical decision-making. It involves providing individuals, including minors, with comprehensive information about the proposed treatment. However, assessing the capacity of minors to make informed decisions about complex medical procedures is challenging. It requires consideration of their cognitive, emotional, and psychological maturity. Age of majority versus medical consent. Legal frameworks often draw distinctions between the age at which individuals are considered adults, age of majority, and the age at which they can provide their own consent for certain medical procedures. The age of medical consent may vary, and some jurisdictions allow minors to make specific healthcare decisions if deemed mature enough. Guidelines and standards. Healthcare professionals follow guidelines and standards of care when treating individuals with gender dysphoria. These guidelines may provide recommendations on assessing the capacity of minors to make decisions about gender-affirming treatments. The goal is to balance autonomy with the need for careful evaluation and support. Parental involvement. The role of parents or legal guardians in a minor's decision-making process is significant. In many cases, parental consent or involvement is sought or required. However, challenges may arise in situations where there is a lack of parental support or understanding, particularly in cases of gender dysphoria. Evolution of perspectives. Societal attitudes toward gender identity and the understanding of gender dysphoria have evolved over time. The acknowledgement of transgender and gender-diverse identities has led to discussions about supporting individuals in aligning their gender identity with their affirmed gender. The complexity of this issue underscores the importance of carefully navigating the intersection of medical, legal, ethical, and social dimensions. It involves balancing the rights and autonomy of individuals with considerations for their well-being, safety, and the potential long-term impact of medical decisions. The field continues to evolve, and discussions around these complex issues will likely be ongoing.